Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Matt.
Good morning.
Good, I can hear you. Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to May of 2022. And actually kind of starting to feel like May, finally. Version of the Inner Circle Workshop. We're happy that you're all here. There are still people rolling in. You guys get to see us, you get to hear us, but we can't see you and we cannot hear you. And so we already had somebody pop in and say, hey, in the chat box this morning. I appreciate that. I would absolutely love it if all of you would jump into that chat box, just wave at us, say good morning. I greatly appreciate it. And before I get going and the chat box starts to kind of like scroll, there's a couple of things in the chat box that we're going to reference a little bit later. So make sure that you know how to get to that chat box and you see some of the links that Matt and I already put in there. So all that to say, good morning, Matt. How are you, sir?
Morning. I'm doing well. And you?
I'm good. We've had a couple of nice days. It's rainy here in the state of Minnesota this morning, but it's finally starting to feel not like winter.
Yes, we were fooled a couple times over the weekend where it looked really warm, and we were out on the lacrosse field, and the wind started whipping. It was not warm.
No, I had 7 baseball games this weekend with my boys, and was absolutely freezing on Saturday by the time we got home and could not warm up, was like shivering. Of course, if you know me at all, you know I hate being cold. Like it's like my least favorite thing on the planet, which makes no sense why I live in the state of Minnesota.
In his office right now.
What's that?
I said he has a heater running in his office right now.
Well, I shut it off for the workshop because otherwise you can hear it. But yeah, I do have a personal heater in my office because, 75 is better than 70. We'll just put it that way. So anyway, as always, we're going to start off with just kind of some housekeeping items and some updates. And so I'm going to leave that off before we jump into our fun and friendly quiz that we have for you today on this topic of behavioral finance. Interesting topic. We'll get more to that. But, Matt, you and I just did a podcast episode on a very similar very heavily related topic on this whole idea of the psychology of money and how people make decisions. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that. But as we get to the website and get some of these housekeeping items, remember that we do have a podcast. The episodes are very eclectic. And this most recent one, we did ask for some feedback. So I'll allude to that a little bit more. But first and foremost, a couple of things. One, if you have not checked your email in the last 2 weeks, or you're spamming all of your Fiat email, or you just delete all of your Fiat email, you should know by now that a couple of things are happening. Big things at Fiat. One, we're standing up our own registered investment advisory firm. Now, to some of you who are not reading our emails, that might sound like a foreign language. But the bottom line is it's just an organizational structural change for us here at Fiat. It's something we're really excited about. It's something that was always a part of the plans. It's always been kind of in our glide path, if you will. And it's just happening right now. So for the most part, it doesn't really change anything for any of you. Same firm, same people, same advisor, same process, same custodian, TD Ameritrade, same account numbers, all that sort of stuff. But it does mean that we need a new advisor service agreement from everybody. And there's a lot of you on this workshop today that have already watched our video that we sent out, that have already signed the DocuSign and all those sorts of things. And so for those of you that have already done what we asked of you, which is to sign that new agreement, which is basically the exact same agreement from before. It's just changing who has the power of attorney to bill the accounts, trade the accounts, request when you request money from us and you want money out of your account or want to put money into your account, all that kind of stuff is giving us that direct access. So if you've already done it, thank you. If everything I'm saying sounds completely foreign to you, it means you're not reading your emails and you need to talk to us, because for all intents and purposes, by the end of this month, by June 3rd, am I right, Matt?
Yep.
Basically, we lose the rights to continue to service your accounts the way that you're used to us doing without that signature. So it's just as simple as clicking into the email, clicking that DocuSign, signing your name electronically, and it's going to be no hiccup or interruption of service, and everything is going to stay as it was before. So again, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, I really encourage you to reach out to who your advisor is here at Fiat and make sure you know what I'm talking about and that you get that DocuSign done. So that's big update number one. Big update number two. Fiat has a birthday coming up. It happens to be June 1st, and we're going to celebrate it. And so we have a question in the chat box. How old is Fiat? Matt, when did we start Fiat Wealth Management?
So we'll be turning 13 years old. We were founded in 2009. So if you guys remember your history lesson, that was a very interesting time to be starting a financial services firm.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Piece cake. It was an interesting time, 13. And so we're a teenager now, Matt. What does that mean that we're going to be more difficult to deal with and start becoming more opinionated? Is that what that means?
Yeah. Well, my oldest just turned 12 yesterday. And
Yeah.
I feel like
whoa. Time out. Because the last question is in relation to your kids and birthday. So don't give any of that away.
Oh my gosh. All right.
The last quiz, you about ruined the last quiz question.
Sorry.
So we are 13, but we're going to celebrate it. So in the chat box, there is a link to RSVP to show up, because what we're going to do is from 4 to 7 o'clock, we're going to have a birthday party. There's going to be cake. There's going to be heavy appetizers is the language I was given. I don't know what that means. Is it like
I think
pound cake? Is that what a heavy appetizer is?
You can make it a dinner if you really wanted to, I think is what that means. You're just going to have to collect.
Okay. There's going to be heavy appetizers. There's going to be some entertainment. I'm not going to tell you what that is, but I will tell you, I'm flying in somebody from the state of New York for this event. I'm not going to tell you what they're here for or what they're doing. I will just let you know they're going to be here. The other person that's going to be here is none other than Jason Suss. And I'm actually going to share my screen with all of you because I want you to see this. So here's Jason right here. Jason owns a company called A Proper Pour. What is his, what's the, I don't want to offend him. Like, what's the official title of, what is he called? Is it a mixologist?
Yeah. So mixologist, bartender, he would probably describe himself as providing an experience. So there's a bunch of different names.
Well, like, fun fact about Jason, not only is he how are those infomercials go?
The hair club for men go?
Yeah.
Not only
do I use it, but I'm also a
customer.
Not only am I the owner, but I'm also a user, something like that, whatever. Jason is actually, he's a client of Fiat Wealth Management. He's done some events with us in the past. He's super fun to have around. He's great at what he does. But what we're going to do is we're going to create 3 signature cocktails and then vote on which one we like the best. And so all of you that attend get to vote. And that is going to become Fiat's signature cocktail from that day forward. Because if you've been a part of the Fiat family for any period of time, you know that we have happy hours and we like to have fun together and hang out together and all that kind of stuff with the families that we serve and we work with, at least locally here. It's a little hard to have a happy hour if you're in Baltimore and Alaska, because we have clients in Maryland and Alaska. But he's going to be here. We have giveaways, kind of like door prize kind of things. The bottom line is we're just gonna have a lot of fun together. It's from 4 to 7. The link is in the chat box. Click the link. Let us know if you're gonna be able to attend. We need to, because we have heavy apps, not just apps, we have heavy apps. We need to make sure that we have enough for everybody that attends. And so that's the other second kind of big announcement. Anything you want to add to that, Matt, before I move on?
No, I don't believe so. You covered all of it.
I nailed it.
As far as the birthday goes, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to share my screen one more time and we're going to go into the Fiat website as we always do. So here we are, Fiat website, just so you know what's going on and what's coming up. I'm going to go to our events tab. So here we are today. The Inner Circle workshop is right here. I'm going to hit view all. We're at May, how money biases affect the way you spend, save, and invest. If that's not what you're here for today, unfortunately, that's what you're getting. That's today's Inner Circle workshop. Next month, June's Inner Circle workshop is on Wednesday, June 22nd. Mark your calendars. The link to RSVP for that or register for that is already up. So you can click that and register for June. We'd love to have you join us. Do you have it, Matt? And in this particular instance, it is investment, time, and tax diversification. And so we're going to talk about those 3 things. How do you diversify from an investment perspective, which our industry talks about ad nauseum, right? But also from a time perspective and a tax perspective, this is vitally important to pre-retirees and retirees. It's additional diversification that I would argue if you don't have, those two are far more important than the investment side of things. And frankly, if you don't have all three, there's just some holes and some gaps in your overall plan when you're in distribution mode. So that's what we're going to focus in on for the June Inner Circle workshop. Anything you want to add to that?
I do have one thing I want to add, which Courtney pointed out in the chat box so kindly. Our very own Brad Gatto has a big birthday of his own coming up next week. So would you share that with us, Brad?
Come on, man. I turn 40 next week. So, but I don't think it's not a bad thing. I've told people forever. Since I got into this industry in my early 20s, I've been looking forward to becoming 40, because when you're in your early 20s and without my beard, I still a little bit look like I'm 12. But I do have gray hair now and I do have a beard. So I kind of can pull the 40 off a little bit, but I looked like I was 12 when I started, and you and I started at Ameriprise. And not only did they require the tie, right? The top button had to be done and we had to have a tie, but we were not allowed to have beards. And so I rocked the 12-year-old look, and we're asking, retirees for their life savings. It doesn't go over very well. So I've been waiting to look older for a very long time in this industry. And here we are. So yeah, thanks for calling me out, Matt. Okay. So our podcast.
Come celebrate his birthday along with Fiat's next week.
Yeah. So they're a day apart. It's just always going to be that way. It is what it is. Anyway, yeah, you derailed me. Our podcast is up here as well. You can subscribe to our podcast. The reason I bring this up is because the episode that came out a couple of weeks ago, episode 28, is all about behavioral finance, psychology of money kind of deal. And so I would encourage all of you that found this topic interesting enough to register for it to go listen to that episode. Because we actually have a request in that episode. And we don't normally have requests in podcasts other than, hey, if you like us, subscribe. The request was to give us feedback on that particular episode, because one of the things that Matt and I are thinking about doing is creating an entire series of podcast episodes around that exact, or at least that topic, that the idea of the psychology of money. And we want to know if it's something that you want to hear. Before we spend all this time, energy, and effort to make this happen, we want some feedback from those of you that are listening, because frankly, what you want to hear is more important than what we want to talk about. So although Matt and I are super passionate about it and we want to talk about it, doesn't mean you want to hear about it. So go listen to episode 28 and let us know if that's something that you want more content on. We find it very fascinating. So I hope that you do too, and you allow us, because really what we want to do is 19 more episodes on that topic and just kind of go through the whole thing. So take a look at that. And last but not least, every single month, we pull a random brand new social media follower and we hand them a $20 Amazon gift card just for following us around on the internet. Did you know you could get paid for following people on the internet? Here at Fiat, you can. Ryan Harder is our new social media follower winner this month. So Ryan, thank you for following us. I don't know which platform you're following us on. I don't get that information from Jen when she gives me all this, but I know you're following us somewhere. So thanks for that. Matt, anything from a housekeeping perspective before we dive into this fun topic of behavioral finance?
I do have one dad joke to share. It will be quick. Yes. I'd like to get into the content. So just a fair warning. I got a 4 on this earlier this week out of 10. So this may not be the best, but I promised I would share it this week to somebody. So what do you call a ripped burrito?
I have no idea.
A tortilla.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's that deserves like the wah. Like that's I think 4 was fair. I think that's about the appropriate rating for that joke there. I'm going to try to redeem you. I don't have a dad joke stored in my head right this second, but hopefully by the time we get done with this content, I can end this workshop with something better than a 4 out of 10 from a dad joke perspective. So with that being said, you guys, we're going to dive right in. If you're been with us before, what's the word I'm looking for here, Matt? If you're a seasoned vet of the Inner Circle workshops, you know what's coming. We've got a fun and friendly quiz for you. I'm going to pop the quiz up on the screen, but you don't get any music because we found out that as we post these on YouTube, that stuff's copyright protected, and we can't. So unfortunately, we're going to sit here in silence. You're welcome. You guys can meditate, pray while you're doing the fun and friendly quiz. But we can't give you any music. So Matt and I are going to go off screen for a minute. I'm going to pop this quiz up. We're going to give you about 5 minutes to complete it. And we will go through the quiz together. Here we go. All right, we're not going to pull it down yet, but I just wanted to let you all know it's been a couple of minutes. We're going to give you another minute or two to get through these questions. And there are some hard questions there. So don't, again, it's a fun and friendly quiz. Do not feel bad. If you do not know the answers to these questions, you will not be called out. All right, we'll be back. All right, countdown clock. You got about 10 more seconds. Get those answers in if you have not done so already. I was trying to think of a dad joke while we were waiting there, Matt. And the problem is I'm not keeping track of which ones I've used on here before.
I know. I used up a lot of them in 2020 during COVID time. So I feel like I'm repeating myself all the time. Yeah,
I suppose some of them are worth repeating.
Yeah, they are. So that particular joke I shared today, I promised someone, they told it to me over the weekend. They thought it was really, really good. So I promised that I'd share it, and I'm not getting great responses. So apologies.
I'll share one that has a little bit, it's not risky.
It's not,
but
maybe Lighthouse.
Lighthouse. What did the fish say when he hit the wall? What did the fish say when he hit the wall?
You got me.
Damn.
It's
a Laffy Taffy joke.
I do love it. We have a contribution. Why is 8 afraid of 7?
Because 7, 8, 9. Yeah, that one I did know. I like that one. Thanks for the dad joke. All right, let's start going through this. So we have the time to do it. I'm going to share the results with everybody. We're going to start with question number 1. Traditional financial theory and behavioral finance theory are the same thing. The vast majority of you said false. 94% of you. Matt, what is the correct answer?
Nice job, everybody. The correct answer is false. So traditional financial theory and behavioral financial theory are actually very, very different. We put a couple of links at the top of the chat that I'm going to be referencing today. So the first thing is a Morningstar study. That's a PDF link that you can click on and save. That's available to everyone. And I also put a link to a website that we're going to be referencing today from the Corporate Finance Institute. So I'm going to be going through that. I think they do a really good job of providing a framework. So to get back to that question, traditional financial theory states that both the market and investors are perfectly rational. I don't know about you, Brad, but that already sounds iffy to me. Yeah. Investors truly care about utilitarian characteristics, that we all have perfect self-control as investors. That should tip us all off right there. And that we're not confused by cognitive errors or information processing. So that's traditional financial theory. And the other side of this is behavioral financial theory. That's what we're going to be talking about today. Number one, we're treated as investors, we're treated as normal, not rational, which means we all have our faults, we all have our biases. We have limits to our self-control, which I would agree with this wholeheartedly, both personally and just in working with people for a long time, 18 years now. Yeah. And investors are influenced by those biases, which we're going to be going through and covering that in more detail today. And that we can all make cognitive errors. They're going to lead to wrong decisions. I think a lot of this applies to not only the financial world, but everything else. Like we all have or I believe we all have some sort of bias built in. So traditional financial theory, behavioral financial theory, two very, very, very different things. So the correct answer is false. Nice job, everyone.
Yeah, it's interesting, Matt, when I think about the markets right now, a lot of people, this has been an interesting year, right? There's all kinds of statistics being thrown around about how the first quarter was the worst first quarter for the S&P since 1939. It was the worst start to the year for the NASDAQ ever in its history since 1971. You look at the bond market and what's happened to the bond markets, and you start to think about kind of the rules to the game relative to investing. And, here at Fiat, as an example, we stick primarily to rules-based investing. There is no lick your finger, stick it in the air, and you and I kind of with our gut going off of, handpicking the 15 stocks inside of the S&P 500 that we think are going to outperform, based on whatever data or metric we see, or maybe it's just a gut feel. We don't do that. It's all rules-based. Now, if traditional financial theory were always true, rules-based investing should work for everybody all the time. You should just be able to follow the rules to the game. And just know that you're going to get whatever outcome it is that you're seeking in that game. But as we've seen this year, the rules got thrown out the window. And so rules-based investing has suffered in 2022 because the market's not playing by the rules. So if you look over the history of our markets over the last 150 years here in the United States, what's happening now doesn't match what's happened traditionally. And there is no like precedence for this. There is no like, hey, this has happened before kind of thing. And a lot of that goes to some of these behavioral finance. Now, obviously, some of it's fundamentals and what's going on in the markets and, where interest rates are at relative to our national debt and what the Fed is doing. And so there are definitely factors to that, but this behavioral component comes in and people have feelings, even the best of the best, the biggest hedge funds out there, the institutional money out there, they've all got to answer to their clients, and their clients are guided by behavior. Now, we talked about this in the podcast, Matt. I'm going to put you on the spot and see if you remember. The two emotions that guide the vast majority of all of our decisions are what?
I'd say fear and greed.
Greed and fear, right?
Yeah.
And so in a time like this, there is a lot of fear, and that guides a lot of those decisions. And so I would agree that false is the correct answer, is basically what that amounts to. All right. Question number 2. All of the following are building blocks of behavioral finance, except 32% of you selected self-deception, 9% of you on both emotion and social influence, and then half of you professional influence. Matt, what is the correct answer to that question?
Correct answer is professional influence, which 50% of you selected. I actually want to stump everybody on one of these, and we're not succeeding thus far. And again, not because I'm mean, just because I want you to learn something today. I want to pull up that link to the Corporate Finance Institute. I think that does a really, really good job of showing.
And this is the link that's in the chat box.
It is,
right?
Yeah. So this is the link that's in the chat box. This is a really, really simple summary of behavioral financial theory in general. So it lays out the framework of this, and then all the biases that we can go into fall under this category. What's really interesting is you'll see a set of 10 biases within this link. The Morningstar study I linked actually has different biases listed. That Morningstar study is just from 2021. But I think this does a really good job of just providing that framework. So the 4 elements within this are self-deception, heuristic simplification, social influence, and emotion. So self-deception is basically, we think we know more than we do. So we mistakenly think that.
I've never thought that.
I would agree wholeheartedly. So we tend to miss information, and in missing that information, we don't make an informed decision. Brad, this never happened.
No, I'm usually the opposite, man. I usually think I know less than I really do. I surprise myself all the time.
Heuristic simplification. So this is just information processing errors. That sounds very computer and clunky. It's just, I heard something, whether it's from my neighbor on the internet, wherever else it is, and I process that incorrectly and make decisions based on that. So it's simplifying something that I think will work, oversimplifying something that might be very, very complex. So for those of you that have been with us for a long time, Brad, I'm gonna fire one at you. Do you remember whose quote it was that said, I wouldn't give a fig for simplicity on this side of complexity, but I'd give my life for simplicity on the other side. Since I got the quote, you now have to answer who it is. Oliver Wendell Holmes.
Okay.
Right? I think so. Yes. That was actually one of our slogans. It has stuck with us, but as you learn about, I think, any subject, you start in very, very simple. And then as you continue to dive into that, we realize just how much we do not know. So things become very, very complex. And then at a certain point, as we become a master of whatever category we're looking at, we get on the other side of complexity where we realize the answer is actually very simple. But this is staying on this edge of complexity and not knowing. The third is emotion. That's pretty self-explanatory. There's a lot of these that can fall under emotion, and it's just what is going on in the world around us. Where's our mood in making decisions? If I have a lack of sleep and I'm feeling stressed, I'm likely not going to make very good decisions in any capacity in life. And that last is social influence. So What's the quote we were just talking about before this? You are the sum of the three people you spend the most time with. Do we know who quoted that? Whose quote that is?
I don't know where that came
Do we know
from,
whose
but
quote that is? You hear it thrown around all the time.
I think it was my mom, but I think her wording was, you are who you hang out with.
I would love to, if someone knows, to drop that in the chat box to tell us whose quote that actually is. I know a lot of people have said it, but that is the people that we spend time around. There is going to be some sort of social influence. If my neighbor is talking about something, that's going to perk up my antenna a bit more. So this is the overall structure, and all the different biases fall under these different categories.
Matt, what's an example of a bias that you have, and then name the category that falls under for you?
Oh,
at least for you.
Oh, come on. Let's see. Man. I try to avoid the social influence one as much as possible, as you're probably aware. I
would argue you like go the opposite way. Like, you're very contrarian. If socially people are going left, you're like, I'm gonna go right.
You know what? So I think I'll go through what all these biases are. There's one that's called anchoring bias. I know I've experienced this. It's when you learn something and or at that point you think I have to be really careful with word choice here. Anchoring bias, you think something is for certain, which will block out being able to take in new information. So that would be a self-deception one. I think I have several that could probably fall under self-deception, and I'll share my opinions about how many biases I think we all have as we continue to progress throughout this.
I don't have any bias.
None. Not at all.
Yeah. I'm not even biased towards my own lack of bias.
So someone had asked that, asking the links.
Well, yeah. I tried to repost it. If you're looking for the link to the RSVP to the birthday party, I'm not sure what's going on or why certain people can't see it or find it, but you did just get an email from us today with another opportunity to register to the birthday party. So check your email.
And then the links to the Morningstar study and the Corporate Finance Institute website are also at the very top.
Yep.
So it'll be one of the first posts in here.
All right. Question 3. It's 11:32, man. We got to rock.
Yeah.
Someone that may overpay for goods and services that bring immediate gratification while procrastinate. I've never done that either. While procrastinating on saving for the long term, may be experiencing 3% of you said delayed gratification bias, 32% said present bias, 21% said procrastination bias, and then 44% of you said compulsive bias. Matt, what is the correct answer there?
Yes, the correct answer is present bias. So we finally stumped you guys. 32%.
Not by a lot, though. Not by a lot, though.
No, and to be fair, that's really just a label. You could look at this and say all these different things are kind of sending the same message, but present bias is prioritizing today over ourselves or anything else in the world 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, 15 years down the road. There's a phrase that we throw around a lot here. At least I know, I feel like I've said this over and over again, is I believe that one job of an advisor is to be an advocate for a particular person or group of people 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road. I personally think that that's a bias that we all have. And Brad, as you know, it's super important to me to be present. That's like a very, very important thing to me in my daily life, because that makes me feel like I'm living for today. But that can present an issue, because if you have that present bias, so to go back and answer your question, I think I probably have this bias. I'm going to focus on what's happening today more than I'm thinking about what's going to be happening in 2027. So the correct answer is present bias.
Yeah, man, I think you said it really well. And I just wanted to reiterate what you said, that a big part of our jobs is to be an advocate for your future self and help you think through the pros and cons of the decisions that you're making, not just for today, but how those decisions affect you a year from now, 5 years from now, and 10 years from now. And it doesn't mean there's a right or wrong answer to how much you kind of steer your decisions towards, present self versus future self, but giving you cognition around what that is. Because a lot of times we end up making decisions that we don't know how that's going to affect us financially down the line. And what I've found in my 16 years in this industry is when you start to give education around that, a lot of people go, oh, well, I didn't know that. And if I would have known that, I would have done that differently, or I would have delayed, some of my present gratification to to save more, do something different, or make a different decision. And so it's just all about being educated. And it goes back to, we say this all the time here at Fiat as well, that we want your life to guide your money and not your money to guide your life. And a lot of that comes through that education. And so being an advocate for your future self is very important when it relates to your finances. So, all right, next question.
I do want to reference the chat box real quick. So Dale kindly, he said, you guys are probably aware of the ultimate book on this topic, Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman, the only person ever to win the Nobel Prize in economics, who is not an economist. Yes, I am very familiar with that book, and it is excellent. Dale, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, awesome. Question number 4. Jane is surprised to find that 4 out of 5, by the way, not only did he know the book, he knew that he's, the stat about the only one to win the Nobel Prize. Like that's impressive. Nice work. Jane is surprised to find that 4 out of 5 of her neighbors invest heavily in cryptocurrency. Where does Jane live? After brief research, she decides the next day to allocate 50% of her portfolio to cryptocurrency. This is an example of confirmation bias. 0% of you said that. Not very often do we get a 0 in any of these answers. 71% said herding mentality, 24% emotional decision-making, and 6% said ignorance, which I don't know if that's a real choice that you made or just more of a comical choice. Either way, I like it. So Matt, what's the correct answer here?
The correct answer is 71% selected herding mentality. That is the correct answer. And that's obviously going to fall under, I'm going to pull this up again, just because I think this is a great visual for this. So that would obviously fall under the social influence category. The correct answer is herding mentality. That is the tendency to do what those around you are doing. And in our minds, this is like if you buy a car, you suddenly see that car everywhere. It's just your awareness. So if the people closest to you, if you feel as though they're all doing it, you make an assumption and project that everyone else everywhere is doing that. So therefore it makes sense to do said thing. So correct answer.
Well, and it gets exacerbated, Matt, by the news, because the news knows that too. And it's always going to report on those things that certain people are picking up on. And so it just gets ingrained, and it turns into what we now call FOMO, right? This fear of missing out. Well, like, oh, my friends are doing it, my neighbors are doing it. And I will readily admit, I have a couple of American dollars in cryptocurrency, not a lot. It's the same money that I would go, to a movie with or go to a casino with. It's entertainment money. It's not an investment in my mind. That's my opinion. That said, the only reason I did it is because all my college buddies had it, and they were all making fun of me that I didn't. Like, oh, smart financial advisor guy, not going to get in cryptocurrency right now. And I was like, fine, I'll put a couple dollars in there just so I'm in the game and in the pool with you guys. But again, it was the same money I would spend at a movie theater. And so I knew what I was doing. I knew why I was getting coaxed into it, but it wasn't an investment decision for me. But totally part of that, exactly what we're talking about here. This influence and this fear of missing out hasn't worked out well for me, by the way.
But you get the education, you get the experience.
And again, I don't care, because it was the second I deposited the money, it was gone in my mind. The cost of friendship with my buddies. That's the way I looked at it. All right, question number 5. In an academic study conducted by James Montier, I'm going to go with, head of the global equity strategy. What percentage of professional fund managers believed that they were above average? 12% of you said 50%. This is going to be weird. I hate reading percentages of percentages. A couple of you answered 31%. The majority of you answered 74%. And a few less said 99%. Matt, what is the correct answer?
Nicely done again, everybody. The correct answer is 74%.
As a group, you guys are passing the test with flying colors.
You are. Yeah, you're actually crushing it.
Is this what the definition of grading on a curve is? Do we grade our fun and friendly quizzes on a curve?
Yeah. Well, this month, I believe last month as well, we have people are acing. So I think we need to dig further and make them more challenging.
Okay, so Matt, you're a financial guy, numbers guy. Not really. You're kind of a, you're a financial advisor. You know the numbers, but it's not your superpower. But how is it possible that 74% of fund managers think they're above average? Tell me how that's possible.
Yeah, it's statistically impossible. Obviously.
It is impossible.
So this is a perfect example of what's called overconfidence bias. And so as you look at those, you realize that it's not possible for 74% to be above average. Those numbers just do not add up. Even if you are not a numbers person, that will make sense to you.
Your friend can't have 50% of something and you have 75% of the same thing. That doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
Here, you take half the apple, I'll take 3/4 of the apple.
My 8-year-old would argue with that probably. But the reason I want to include this is that overconfidence bias. I think an assumption we would make is we'll see overconfidence bias, and we did a inner circle workshop just recently talking about day trading and cryptocurrency, all these different flash headlines we see out there.
Yep.
There's so many opportunities to jump on the next hot thing, and it's a for sure thing. Again, going back to, if we dive into that, we create a bias of thinking we know what's going to happen. That is overconfidence bias. That happens across not only investors, retail investors. When I say retail investor, that just means all of you. It's actually us as we, put money in our account at TD Ameritrade. As retail investors, it is also pervasive in the professional area. So one thing that's super important to us is we will not partner with an advisor unless they understand these biases exist. And going back to the rules-based investing side of this, the moment that we think we know what's going to happen is the moment that, and I say this all the time, if I ever tell you that I think I know for sure what's going to happen, I've lost it and you should turn around and run the other way. Realistically, we don't know. Yep. And this just shows that can spill over into the professional spectrum as well.
Yeah.
This is why it's important for us as we choose partners, as far as investment managers go. If they're not aware of this, then that's a big red flag for us as well.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, a couple things that I want to add. One, just to say it a little differently than you did, just because you're you and I'm me, and then these fund managers, these institutional level fund managers and traders and portfolio guys and gals, just because they're them and we're us, doesn't mean that they don't suffer from this just as much as you and I would. They have more confidence in whatever widget they have or whatever knowledge they have than they probably should. And so that's just something that we need to be aware of. The second thing is the most common example I see of this in people, and I'm just going to point it out because you could be one of these people, and it's good to be aware of it. But the most common area that I see this is for your current employer stock. Like if you work at a company that gifts you stock, or through RSUs or through an ESPP plan or something like that, or it's the match in your 401k. We see that sometimes too. People tend to want to hold on to a lot of it. And they have this very positive bias towards, or overconfidence towards, their particular company. And that's because of comfort, because you know more about your company than you know of any other company. Because you work at it, naturally, you're going to think it's better than most. I mean, it's just true. There's no other, I just, Matt, and maybe you've seen it and I haven't. I just never seen anybody else or anybody walk into our office with more stock in a company that they have nothing to do with than their own company that they work for. And they could just be a day-to-day employee. They're not, maybe they're not even an executive level or director level. They're just a day-to-day, but for whatever reason, they just absolutely in love with that particular company and don't want to divest of it, diversify it, that sort of thing. And so in the day-to-day, that's just the most common example I see that I wanted to point out. So
I have a question. There's a question that was posted in the chat box that I think is a great opportunity to answer. So question is, if an advisor does not think he is above average, why is he an advisor? So the way the question is framed makes me think that it would be helpful to listen to some of our other workshops to hear about what our philosophy is and what we believe an advisor's role is. So if a particular advisor believes their role is that they're going to outpick someone else's investment portfolio, I would average they may be right until they are wrong. And so an advisor should be above average when it comes to looking at the big picture and creating a plan that integrates all different areas of this, the investment policy, the tax plan, the estate plan. That's the role of an advisor, and they should be very above average with that. But when it comes to thinking that they can outsmart the market, I think that's a good red flag to rethink that evaluation.
Yeah, that's exactly how I take that question too, Matt, are you talking specifically about above average relative to investment performance? Or are you talking about above average relative to being that confidant, that advisor to help you and guide you through your entire financial, decision process, plan, whatever you want to call it. And that goes back to what we were talking about 10 minutes ago around being an advocate for your future self and helping you make those decisions. The extreme example, and I think the best example of not being able to outpace the markets or, and on any consistent level is, and I think maybe we talked about this in the podcast. I don't know if we did, is Benjamin Graham. And if you're unfamiliar with who Benjamin Graham is kind of considered the godfather of investing here in America. He's where Warren Buffett, if Warren Buffett is the father of investing, Benjamin Graham's the godfather, and Warren Buffett kind of learned from Benjamin Graham. Okay. So right away you'd be like, oh, okay, that guy obviously knows what he's doing. Otherwise he wouldn't have that title. Warren Buffett learned from him. We all know who Warren Buffett is, arguably the most successful investor in modern times. The majority of Benjamin Graham's money, almost all of it, was made on one stock pick, Geico Insurance Company. Most everything else he didn't work. He failed the vast majority of the time, but because the one thing he did worked so well, he still became a very successful by numbers perspective investor over time because he just kind of struck gold on one particular thing. And so if Benjamin Graham, the godfather of investing, can't outpace the markets and kind of get things right the majority of the time, that just kind of tells you what you need to know about that, right? This idea of I'm a fund manager and I think 74% of me and my colleagues think that we're better than average, right? All right. Let's go to the next question. We're on question 6. Here we go. This is kind of a confusing question. So if you got this right, even more kudos to you. In the Morningstar study referenced above, and if we didn't quite give you time to go read it was open book. You could have gone and clicked. The survey respondents with low levels of present bias were blank times more likely to spend less than their income and more than blank times as likely to plan ahead for their future. That was hard to read. I'm not going to go through. I'm not going to. Matt, what's the right answer?
The right answer, once again, the majority of you selected the correct answer. It's 3 and 7. So 3 times as likely to spend less than their income, which going back to that question we just referenced.
Before you give all the why that's the right answer. If you're willing to share in the chat box, I'd be curious. If you're willing to share in the chat box, how many times did you read that question before you answered it? How many times you'd have to go through it and read it and be like, oh, okay, now I'm going to formulate. If the answer is 1, kudos to you, because I had to read it more than once before I knew what Matt was talking about. 2. Oh, I love it. 3. Yeah. See, people are being honest. That's a tough question. All right. Go ahead, Matt.
A lot of this stuff comes down to the basics, and it does come down to managing our behavior. And so when we look at that, that's a big increase, 3 times as likely and 7 times as likely. What would we infer from what's something that we could learn from that is if I have present bias, which we referenced earlier, and that's what we were talking about in that question, perhaps it would be beneficial to have an advocate, a third party that helps me to put myself 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, or for me to do that myself, which this gets into soft skills versus hard skills. And I believe hard skills would be, I can beat up this portfolio, can beat up that portfolio. I'm smarter than this or that, or I can tell the future better than this person or that. Soft skills would be, I'm able to make decisions today with 5 years down the road, thinking about myself or my family, or, being a good steward of my money 15, 20 years down the road. So it does really get into that soft skill side of things, which in my opinion, advisors should be far above average in the soft skill side of things. The hard skills, that stuff is easy to learn. That's textbook stuff. The soft skills, that's not textbook. You have to learn that through experience.
Well, it's just like anything in life, whether it's working out, eating healthy. I mean, creating habits is definitely a part of this, right? And creating the habit of trying to make decisions that aren't just focused on what's right in front of your face, but understanding how those decisions affect you down the line. It's just hard to do, especially in a culture, quite frankly. The average American, and this stat is old, Matt, so I don't know that the stat is correct anymore. In fact, if it's wrong, I think it's probably low, because I heard this actually in a sermon about a decade ago. The average American sees over 3,500 advertisements a day.
Jeez.
And that pushes you to that present bias of like, I need this now. This is going to help me now. This is going to make me happy. This is going to do that. And all of that leads to a financial decision, because all of that is marketing for products and services that all cost money. And so it's just very, very hard to overcome. But like anything in life, creating new habits, if you can create a new habit, it has a snowball effect. And so what ends up happening is when people kind of change their mindset and go from, a spender present bias, like not really, advocating for my future self, as we talked about before, and turn into that person over time that starts to do that, it almost becomes hard to unravel that when they retire and get them to spend any of it, because now they turned themselves into a person that's always now watching out for their future selves. And then we run into that issue with certain clients that we can't get them to advocate for today's self. So it can work both ways. All right, let me go to the next question. We are in question number 7. Got a couple questions left here. We got 7 minutes to go. Thanks for hanging in with us, everybody. All of the below are common biases in behavioral finance, except the narrative fallacy. About a quarter of you said that. A couple said framing. 50% of you said nepotism bias, and 18% said anchoring bias. Matt, how'd they do?
We finally stumped everyone. Yes. No, we didn't. Dang it.
I was going to say, I was like reading, I was like looking at the question. I was like, do I not understand the question?
The correct answer is nepotism bias. That would be favoring someone who's related to us or close to us.
So far, as a group, you're trending towards an A on the quiz.
Yes. So that same link that I provided before goes through if you look at that Morningstar study we provided, that actually has, as I said, has a list of different biases. The link I provided at the Corporate Finance Institute, that lists 10 different biases under that framework I went through before. Nepotism bias is not included in that. So narrative fallacy, framing bias, and anchoring bias are all included in there. For the sake of time, I won't go through each of those in detail. I did talk about anchoring and bias before, but the reason I included that website, and Dale, thanks for pointing out that book. We don't want you to feel like we're giving you loads and loads of homework every time you talk to us. We would love for you to go read that book. I think it's amazing. That website is a real succinct summary that's basic level where we can just build awareness. So once again, nice. I thought we stumped you and we did not. So nice job, everybody.
They're doing well. We got one more. Here we go. One more, like, legit question. We all have some sort of bias, true or false? 100% said true, Matt.
Well, this is a trick question. So it's
not fair.
It's not fair. I actually agree. So this Morningstar study that was referenced, that it was, 1,211 people were surveyed. They found that 98% of them presented some sort of bias as they went through. So technically, based on that study, the answer would be false. I disagree. I think that we all have some sort of bias in some fashion. And talking about Warren Buffett earlier, if you dig into, there's a great biography on Warren Buffett. I believe it's called Snowball Effect. It's very, very long. It just tells the story of his life. And one thing they'll talk about a lot is the reason he's been a successful investor is because of the lack of a lot of these biases. He doesn't have the herding mentality. He's kind of done his own thing, been able to think very long-term. So that is, I believe that we all have some sort of bias. Some of us are probably better at self-awareness of that and recognizing that. And a perfect example of that would be if I have a present bias, like I said before, I have someone else who's a coach to me that's helping me to think forward, because I know that that's not a strength of mine.
Man, I just put the link, the Amazon link to that book. Again, thanks, Dale. Thinking Fast and Slow. Interesting enough, if you're an Amazon Prime member, it's free.
Nice.
So there you go. Last question. It's 11:56. We're coming in right on time here. The most important question of the day: which child of Matt's has a birthday today? And I think I spelled Adeline wrong. Did I?
You did. It's A-D.
Dang it, it's an E. It's an E, not an A. In the middle. Is that right?
It's an E in the middle, yes.
A-D-E. Dang it.
A-D-E.
It's not my fault. You have too many kids. Owen, Ben, Charlie, or Adeline. Matt, which one of your children has a birthday today?
The correct answer is Ben. So fun fact, it was Owen's birthday yesterday. So he just turned 12 yesterday. Ben turns 8 today. It was my parents' anniversary. Happy anniversary, guys, if you're on here on Monday. I did already wish them happy anniversary. And Katie and my anniversary is next week. Your 40th birthday is next week. There's a lot of celebrating going on.
This is a great time of year.
Yes.
It's just a great time of year, which means all of you should be coming to the Fiat birthday party because it's also Fiat's birthday.
Yep. That was the next thing I was going to say. We're doing a lot of celebrating.
Yeah. So what are you doing for Ben's birthday, Matt?
Same thing we did for Owen's birthday. He has a soccer game on his birthday, and then we'll probably go grab some dinner with grandma and open some gifts.
There you go.
So hopefully the rain holds off.
What's that?
Hopefully the rain holds off.
Right. Everybody, as we close, just always thank you for attending. Matt and I genuinely love doing this. It's fun for us. And so we hope that you feel the same way. We're always looking for topics and things that we could provide content on that you would find beneficial. And so we will always take your feedback. You can use the generic email here. It's hello@fiatwm.com, hello@fiatwm.com. Email us and give us any feedback you have about our Inner Circle workshops, good, bad, or indifferent, as well as any topics of things that you would like to hear more about. We're always open to your suggestions. In fact, some of our Inner Circle workshops in the past have come through feedback we've gotten from people just like you. So thank you for that. And lastly, when it comes to this topic, just to kind of tie a bow on it, it's much easier to walk into an advisor's office and have a quantifiable conversation about rate of return and portfolio expectations and things like that. But at the end of the day, a lot of what's going to dictate that portfolio rate of return is non-quantifiable things relative to your behavior and your bias. And the advisor's potential behavior and their potential bias. And a great example of that is something like right now, or in the short term, our markets are tumultuous and they're doing things they've never done before. The way that the market is behaving over the last handful of months, there isn't a precedence for it. And that causes a lot of emotion. Emotions drive behavior, and they also drive a lot of these bias. And so, as I know, some people maybe think that this stuff isn't as important as the quantifiable data. Matt and I would argue, and I think I'm putting words in your mouth, Matt, here, but I think you would be on this stuff's more important, because at the end of the day, a lot of your outcomes are going to be dictated by this type of stuff and not by, did I pick Apple over Microsoft, or did I pick McDonald's over Wendy's, kind of thing. So with that being said, thanks for hanging in there with us. Have fun reading that study that Matt put out there. And again, thanks for all the chat in the chat box. We love interacting with you in that way, and hope to see as many of you as possible next week on Wednesday. Come celebrate with us. We have heavy appetizers, if I didn't say that already. I still don't get it. Why don't we just stay where we're feeding them? Heavy appetizers. So anyway, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next month to figure out if you have it. Remember, ITT. Do you have it? All right, guys, have a wonderful day. It's 12 o'clock on the nose. We nailed it, Matt. Another successful month. Thanks for doing all the homework. Matt did all the homework today, guys. I
love it.
I know you do. So I'm just gonna, you're welcome for allowing you to do all the homework. See you, everybody.
Hey guys, thank you.